An orc-looking monster with a massive club is about to ruin someone's day. A small warrior tanks the hit with a shield that has no business being that strong. The orc is absolutely stunned that its attack got blocked by the little guy. A blonde archer dude sees his opening and yells for the team to attack. A redhead archer and a fluffy dog mage unleash a combo of magic and fire arrows. The combined attacks connect, blowing the monster to smithereens in a massive explosion. The orc's hand drops to the ground, signaling the end of the fight. Blondie, the party leader, breathes a sigh of relief and does a quick head count. The doggo mage is hyped about leveling up while the redhead archer looks relieved. Blondie thanks the knight Maron, admitting it's way better having a tank around. The whole party looks horrified as Maron approaches the dead orc, telling him to stop. Maron just ignores them, pulls out a knife, and starts getting ready to butcher the corpse. My man Maron starts following a recipe, beginning with shaving the dead orc's arm. He then boils the orc meat with a bunch of spices to get rid of the stench. After cooking, Maron starts slicing the orc roast like it's a Thanksgiving turkey. Maron brings his finished dish to the campfire, and his team looks absolutely disgusted. The redhead and doggo mage eat bread, questioning why he eats monsters with normal food around. Maron puts the final garnish on his meal with the focus of a Michelin star chef. The final dish is revealed as orc cream pasta, and his party is still not convinced. Maron, our helmet-wearing main character, happily shoves a huge bite of orc pasta into his mouth. Blondie cautiously asks Maron if the monster meal is actually any good, while my man just stares back. Maron offers the redhead a bite of his orc pasta, and she recoils like he offered her poison. Our boy Maron just keeps eating, thinking these plebs just don't understand true gourmet cuisine. My man is having a full-on foodgasm, breaking down the complex flavors of the orc meat. The whole party just stares, completely baffled that someone could enjoy monster meat that much. Blondie changes the subject to a rumor about a hero who was recently found dead. The redhead archer immediately panics, demanding to know where this supposed hero died. Doggo mage gets nervous, realizing she was just in that area and that the dead hero was a big shot. The whole crew sits in the dark cave, wondering what kind of monster could take out a top-tier hero. The redhead and Blondie glance at Maron, complaining that he only sees monsters as a potential meal. Blondie finally asks the big question, why the hell did Maron even start eating monsters? Maron stops eating, and the vibe gets super serious as he prepares to drop his origin story. Flashback starts taking us to a small village 3 months ago where some trouble is brewing. A giant red boar is rampaging on the main road, completely blocking travel for the entire town. A blonde merchant is pissed, yelling about the road being blocked and pointing to a wrecked carriage. We see the poor bastard who drove that carriage, looking like he just survived a horror movie. The merchant declares that no one is leaving town, effectively putting the whole place on lockdown. An old woman is devastated she can't visit her son, highlighting how screwed everyone is. 2 other merchants start stressing about a delivery they have to make to a noble in 3 days. The head merchant is having a full-blown panic attack because pissing off a noble is a death wish. The head merchant yells at some poor soul that nobody is leaving the town anytime soon. A red-haired warrior tells a merchant he doesn't care about their problems and to find another ride. The 2 desperate merchants spot the red-haired warrior walking away, clearly getting an idea. They size up the warrior, who we now recognize as a younger Maron, noting he looks shabby but strong. The head merchant decides Maron's broke appearance makes him an easy target to hire for cheap. The merchants run after Maron, calling out to the warrior with the helmet as he's leaving town. The mustached merchant, Mahamu, intercepts Maron, who tells him he's heading east to Adorama. Mahamu and the head merchant offer Maron a job escorting them, promising to cover his fare and meals. Maron calls them out, pointing out he knows it's dangerous and that they're on a tight deadline. My man Maron just cuts to the chase, suggesting they team up since they're both in a hurry. Mahamu is absolutely overjoyed that Maron agreed, practically bowing in gratitude. Mahamu introduces himself and asks Maron to wait in the carriage while they try to hire more bodyguards. Maron just kicks back in the carriage and introduces himself as Maron Grass, cool as a cucumber. The merchants whisper about Maron, thinking he's a shady deserter, but decide they'll take anyone who can fight. Maron overhears their bitching and casually tells them to hire more mercs if they're that worried. The scene cuts to black as someone's eyes go wide with pure terror. A severed, bloody hand lies on the forest floor as the person wonders how things went so wrong. We see a dead blonde hero completely torn apart as the narrator laments his pathetic death. The person who found the body gives a seriously sinister look over their shoulder. A wide shot reveals this mysterious dude standing over the hero's corpse in the dark woods. The mysterious dude from the last scene is now frozen in terror, looking at some giant purple bug monster. A flashback shows the dead hero, bloody but determined to get to Adamara before he bought the farm. Someone's voice cuts through the darkness, calling out for Maron and snapping us back to the present. We're back in the carriage where Mahamu the merchant is waking Maron up, who is apparently sleeping in his helmet. Maron asks what's up, and Mahamu explains the other hired mercs are just making small talk about their destinations. The other mercs introduce themselves, and Mahamu asks Maron where in Adorama he's headed. Maron says he's going to a nursery to see his family, which he hasn't been able to do for a while. One of the other mercs, a cocky ginger dude, asks Maron what his level is since he looks strong. The ginger merc explains the Window of the Heart system, which is just a basic RPG status screen for your power level. This dude proudly flexes his level 23 and condescendingly tells Maron he'll get there someday if he tries hard. Maron pulls up his own status window and the number is a casual 95. My man is in a different league. The ginger merc and Mahamu lean in to see the number and are completely blown away by how high it is. Suddenly, the carriage driver starts screaming his head off, announcing that the monster has found them. The red boar from the town is now charging straight for their carriage, tearing up the ground as it comes. A close-up reveals this ain't no normal pig. It's a three-eyed demonic beast straight from hell. Another zoom in on the red boar's face shows it's drooling and ready to turn them all into paste. The level 23 ginger merc starts barking orders, telling everyone to get ready to fight and lure it away. Maron calmly steps out of the carriage to face the beast while another merc tells him it's hopeless. Our boy Maron just sizes up the monster, thinking it looks a little weird, but it's still just a boar. The red boar's stats pop up, revealing it's level 62, and Maron just thinks it'll be a good test. Maron doesn't even flinch, just draws his sword and strolls towards the charging monster. The level 23 ginger merc starts screaming at Maron, asking him if he's got a death wish. The red boar charges full steam ahead, dead set on turning Maron into a red smear on the road. In a flash of steel, Maron slices the massive boar clean in half with a single upward swing. The two bloody halves of the boar fly right past him as the rest of the party watches in total shock. My man just stands there, back turned to the carnage as blood rains down around him. Maron looks down at the bisected corpse covered in gore and seems genuinely confused by what just happened. The entire group of merchants and mercs absolutely loses their minds, cheering like they just won the championship. Our boy is still trying to process the situation, questioning if he was really the one who did that. He's completely stunned that a single strike could do that much damage, especially given the level difference. The ginger merc, who was just calling him an idiot, is now his #1 fan, praising the one-hit kill. The crew starts speculating that he's not human, maybe an elf or something, but Maron just stays quiet. The whole party gathers around Maron, looking at him with a mix of awe and a healthy dose of fear. The ginger merc gets hyped, slapping Maron's helmet and declaring it's time to celebrate with a meal. As soon as food is mentioned, Maron stares at his hand like he just had a world-changing epiphany. Later that night, the mercs are setting up a campfire, getting ready to cook their victory dinner. The merchants start gossiping about Maron, wondering if his power comes from a magic sword since he's so mysterious. A female merc suggests they just ask him what his deal is and calls out to get his attention. They turn to where Maron was sitting a second ago, but the dude has completely vanished into thin air. The mercs are totally confused, looking around and wondering where their overpowered bodyguard disappeared to. The other mercs scream in pure horror after finally finding where Maron disappeared to. My man casually drags half a demonic boar to the campfire, and the crew is not having it. The ginger merc asks if he's insane, but Maron just thought they could use some fresh meat. The alternative is a bowl of what looks like sad, watery potato soup. The ginger merc lectures Maron about not eating monsters while choking down his bland meal. Maron, still silent, takes a spoonful of the soup everyone else is eating. He immediately gags, realizing the soup is absolutely disgusting. This is his villain origin story. A female merc enjoys the soup, while Maron questions if this bland slop is considered tasty. A blonde merc snaps at him, asking what he expected while camping outdoors. She realizes he was serious about the boar and asks what's wrong with his reaction. The blonde merc continues her lecture, pointing out that monster meat is disgusting and probably poisonous. The ginger merc explains you only harvest materials from monsters and burn the rest. The blonde archer tells Maron to just eat, but gets called away to help with the corpse. Two of the mercs are struggling to light the boar on fire, calling for the archer's help. The blonde archer steps up confidently, telling the two clowns to get out of the way. Maron watches, confused about why an archer is being asked to start a fire. The blonde archer reveals her trick, summoning a literal fireball in her hand. She unleashes her fire magic, incinerating the boar corpse in a massive blaze. One of the mercs is amazed by the magic, thinking he should learn some too. The blonde archer dusts off her hands, looking smug after showing off her skills. Maron asks the blonde archer if she's from the magic tower, and she's completely thrown off by the question. She gets all defensive, insisting she's an archer, while Maron points out she literally just threw a fireball. The blonde archer scoffs, explaining that even plebs who aren't mages can pull off that level of magic. She calls Maron a country bumpkin, telling him that kind of magic is standard issue for modern adventurers. The blonde archer tells Maron to look over yonder, about to drop some knowledge on this out-of-touch dude. She points out a whole-ass city lit up like Vegas, showing him what the modern world looks like. My man Maron is blown away, realizing the city is powered by magic stones, not regular old lamps. The archer flexes on him again, explaining that magic is so common now that even kids have magical robot toys. Our boy Maron just stares at the city, having a full-blown existential crisis about how much the world has changed. Back at camp, the ginger merc whines about the smell of monster meat, while the head merchant offers him a taste. The head merchant starts daydreaming about a victory feast, getting the ginger merc hyped for some post-job beers. Meanwhile, Maron just stands there by the fire, completely zoned out and separate from the rest of the crew. The scene cuts to a wide shot of their destination, the city of Eastern Adrama. Journey's over, folks. The merchants are showering Maron with thanks, crediting his boar-slaying skills for their early arrival. Mahamu gives Maron a firm handshake, telling him he was their literal savior on this trip. Maron awkwardly accepts the thanks while his stomach growls loud enough to register on the Richter scale. The merchants gossip as Maron leaves, realizing the dude literally didn't eat anything the entire journey. They start speculating he's got some weird disease, which might be why he keeps his helmet on 24/7. The head merchant tries to give Maron a bonus payment, but our boy says it wasn't in their original contract. After some convincing, Maron takes the extra cash and the merchants wish him well on his way. Maron stares into a bag of potatoes he just bought with his hard-earned bonus money. My man is literally talking to the potatoes, probably promising them a better fate than that sad camp soup. He gets lost in thought and just drops the entire bag on the street, leaving a local completely baffled. Our boy Maron gets sentimental, reflecting on his long journey and his return to his hometown of Eastern Adrama. He walks through the city, feeling like a stranger because the whole place looks unfamiliar to him. Maron spots a bakery he recognizes from his childhood, relieved that at least some things haven't changed. He gets his bearings knowing that the place he's looking for is just around the next corner. My dude is getting all emotional about finally being home after being away for so long. We see a flashback of the St. Rias nursery, the place he told the mercs he was going to see his family. Maron arrives at the location, but instead of the nursery, there's a damn toy store standing in its place. He starts questioning his own memory, but he's positive this is the right spot and has no idea what's going on. The toy shop owner comes out and asks our confused knight if he needs help finding something. Maron frantically asks the shopkeeper what happened to the St. Rias nursery that was supposed to be there. The shopkeeper has no clue what he's talking about, explaining he's the second-generation owner of the store. Our boy keeps insisting the nursery was there, but the shopkeeper just repeats that he's never heard of it. An old man on a bench calls out, asking Maron if he's the one looking for the St. Rias nursery. The old-timer confirms the place existed, but tells Maron that it was a very, very long time ago. Maron presses him for details about what happened, and the old man's face gets super grim. The old man drops the bomb on our boy, telling him he heard the entire nursery burn to the ground. He finishes the story by revealing it was destroyed during an attack by a massive dragon. The flashback hits another level, revealing Maron's past life as a modern dude sinking after an accident. As he dies, my man reflects on his empty life, reaching for a light that symbolizes a warmth he never had. He snaps back to consciousness, realizing his first life is over, and his first sight in the new one is a wooden fish. The dude puts two and two together, realizing he's been isekai'd into a baby's body after remembering he drowned. Two little kids are staring down into his crib, and one of them gets excited that the new baby is finally awake. One of the kids runs off to tell his sister that the baby, our boy Maron, has finally woken up. Baby Maron is having a full-blown crisis, trying to process how he's alive after definitely dying in an accident. An adult woman walks in, gently scolding the kid for shouting and potentially scaring the baby. The woman reaches down and gently lifts our confused, reincarnated main character out of the crib. It's a kind old nun, who officially welcomes him to the St. Rias nursery he was just looking for. The nun holds him up like Simba and declares that from this day forward, he's part of their family. Maron's narration explains this was his first memory in this world, finally finding the family he never had. The scene jumps forward years later, with a bag of money being dropped on a desk as a donation. A grown-up armored Maron is talking to the nun, who tells him she doesn't need his money. The nun worries about Maron, pointing out he just returned but is already leaving again and overworking himself. Maron just laughs it off, telling her it's a simple job clearing out a few goblins in the south. The nun is clearly not convinced by his casual act, looking at him with nothing but concern. As he's about to walk out the door, the nun stops him, asking him to make a promise first. She tells him not to be late coming back, promising to bake his favorite berry pie for his return. Maron, clearly touched, looks back at her and promises he will. Yeah, this is not going to end well. A new nun finds Maron at a memorial tree and asks if he's the one she was looking for. She drops the bomb that the nursery was destroyed by a dragon and there were no survivors. The nun asks what his connection is to the dead, since nobody has visited this grave in ages. Maron doesn't answer and just collapses to his knees in front of the memorial, shocking her. The nun awkwardly backs away, leaving our boy to grieve for the family he just found out is gone. My man is crushed, remembering his promise to the old nun that he would come back right away. He reaches for the memorial plaque, flashing back to her telling him not to worry about the job. Our boy is completely broken, a single tear escaping his helmet as the weight of his failure hits. He tortures himself, wondering if he could have saved them if he'd been there to fight the dragon. Maron slams his fist into the ground in the rain, realizing he'll never know the answer. Days later, two nuns are gossiping, wondering if that weird knight is still kneeling at the grave. The other nun confirms he's been there for days, worried he's going to get sick from the exposure. My dude is still kneeling in the same spot, completely catatonic from the grief. One of the nuns leaves him a loaf of bread out of pity and walks away. Maron finally picks up the bread, probably the first thing he's acknowledged in days. He takes a bite and immediately gags, realizing something is seriously wrong with him. The bread just drops from his hand as he's overwhelmed by the disgusting taste. My man explains that his grief is so bad that all normal food tastes awful and makes him sick. He figures out the problem is with him, since he sees other people eating just fine. Maron sits in despair, realizing his trauma has left him unable to even eat when he's starving. Maron hits rock bottom, questioning the point of living after losing his family for a second time. Still kneeling in despair, our boy suddenly catches a whiff of something strange in the air. He realizes the smell is richer than any food he's known, and unlike the bread, it's actually appetizing. Maron finally gets up and follows the scent, leaving the memorial site behind him. He sneaks up on some guards who are bitching about having to burn monster corpses inside the castle. One guard is freaking out that the smell is too close to real meat and someone might accidentally eat it. His buddy just shrugs it off, saying the monster isn't even poisonous, so who cares? The chill guard tells the other to haul the carcasses out himself if he's so worried about it. Maron, still hiding, thinks to himself that the burning monster meat smells absolutely delicious. As Maron bolts, one of the guards looks over, wondering how the fire burned down so fast. Our boy returns to the memorial tree, but this time he's brought a little something with him. He sits down and pulls out a roasted monster leg he clearly yoinked from the fire. My man holds up the juicy, perfectly cooked monster meat, ready for his first taste. He hesitates for a second before committing to eating the forbidden barbecue. He takes a massive bite and is instantly blown away by how unbelievably delicious it is. Our boy starts breaking down the flavor profile, praising the savory juice and slightly burnt taste. He's in pure bliss as the rich flavor explodes in his mouth. This is his eureka moment. Maron realizes this monster meat is 1,000,000 times better than the normal food his body was rejecting. He absolutely demolishes the monster leg, feeling his survival instincts finally kick back in. Maron stares at his greasy, bloody hand, having a revelation that will change his life forever. Maron is face down on the ground, completely broken by his new reality. He apologizes to his dead family, a single tear escaping his helmet. My man is crushed by survivor's guilt, watching his family's spirits depart. But even after all that, our boy decides he still wants to live. He clenches his bloody fist, vowing to eat good food and live like a human. Maron questions if he even deserves to be happy after failing to save them. He finally gets up from the memorial, having found a new purpose. Our boy grabs his gear, ready to leave his past behind and start over. He makes a new promise to the memorial, vowing to return without fail this time. Maron takes his first step, marking the start of a new chapter in his life. He declares this the beginning of his secret gourmet journey. The legend is born. His first stop is Hexalum, the Adventurers Guild in the center of Adorama. The place is packed with adventurers, and it's where everyone gets their start. The guild operates like a classic RPG hub, managing quests on a big board. It even has a cute dog person receptionist handling dungeon requests and payments. But to join, you gotta pass a strength test against a magical training dummy. Some poor schmuck fails the test, getting rejected on the spot. A mysterious dude in a green hood steps up, looking way too confident for this. The training dummy's target lights up, ready for the impact. The green-hooded guy unleashes a punch so fast it's just a blur. The training dummy lights up with a score of 53-12, announcing a new record for the day's test. The green-hooded guy is revealed to be a blonde elf who pumps his fist looking smug as hell. The crowd starts gossiping about the elf taking first place, completely blowing past the previous high score. The elf, looking like a main character, wonders where a rookie like him could have come from. Some rando immediately tries to recruit the elf, promising they could form a great party together. The elf gives him a look of pure disgust, clearly offended by the offer from such a pleb. Our boy Maron accidentally bumps into the elf, who immediately yells at him not to touch him so casually. Maron, completely unbothered, just scratches his helmet and apologizes for getting in the way. A mouse person from the guild calls out to Maron, asking if he's planning on taking a quest. The elf scoffs at Maron, questioning if he can even pass the test, but our boy says of course he can. The pretty boy elf flashes a confident smile, clearly thinking he's the hottest thing since sliced bread. Maron just pats the elf on the shoulder, telling him to chill out a little bit. The elf is taken aback as Maron advises him that being nervous will just mess up his performance. The elf, now named Daria, quickly changes his tune, flashing a peace sign and saying comrades should help each other. Maron is left totally confused by the sudden switch-up as Daria walks off. A cheerful blonde elf receptionist named Daisy welcomes the next person in line. Daria strolls up to the counter like he owns the place, giving the receptionist a casual wave. He brags to Daisy about getting first place, acting like it was nothing while she confirms the rumor. Daisy officially congratulates him, handing over his certificate to join the Hexalim Guild. Daria loses his cool, freaking out that he's only D rank after getting the top score in the test. Daisy, the receptionist, tells Daria he needs to grind missions to rank up, trying to soften the blow to his ego. The pretty boy elf, too impatient for his own good, immediately demands a quest he can start right now. He gets offered 2 lame quests for a gargoyle's mansion and gremlin eyeballs, and he reluctantly accepts. We get a shot of the spooky gargoyle's mansion, an unpopular dungeon that's been festering for ages. The quest details warn that D ranks must form a party because the monster population is out of control. Daria is absolutely disgusted by the idea of having to team up with anyone from this guild. He looks around the hall, complaining that there's no one worthy of joining his party. Famous last words. While he's whining, the training dummy behind him gets absolutely obliterated by an unseen force. Daria turns around in shock just in time to see the dummy fly right past his face. The dummy smashes through the guild wall and everyone starts panicking about who got hurt. Daisy checks on a stunned Daria, who says he's fine but is clearly rattled by the chaos. Someone explains the test golem just got launched through the wall, wondering who could be that strong. Daria looks over at the hole in the wall, finally connecting the dots on who could have done it. Our boy Maron is standing in the hole he just created, looking like an absolute unit. Maron points at the wreckage he caused, and Daria can't believe what he's seeing. My man immediately starts bowing and apologizing for literally breaking the building with his strength test. Daisy tells him it's fine since no one got hurt, and he didn't technically cheat on the test. A guild worker stares at the massive hole in the wall while Maron continues his apology tour. The guild hands Maron the bill, listing the costs for the wall, furniture, and the golem he wrecked. They tack on damages for business suspension, and Maron just silently accepts his fate as a broke legend. Daisy, the receptionist, cheerfully hands Maron the bill for his little demolition project, a cool 2 gold and 30 silver. Maron asks when he has to pay it back, and Daisy tells him with a big smile that he can repay it whenever. Her smile gets a little demonic as she adds that the guild will sue his ass if he takes too long. Our boy Maron realizes he's got a grind quest to pay off his debt, but all the remaining ones require a party. Daria, the pretty boy elf, pops up out of nowhere and asks Maron to join his party. The elf gives a cheesy wink, saying comrades should help each other, leaving Maron completely confused by the sudden personality swap. A quick appraisal shows Daria is a level 36 elf archer with the title Spirit User, so he's not a total scrub. Maron is still trying to figure out why this dude is so friendly all of a sudden, but notes his stats are solid. Daisy, the receptionist, jumps in, saying their warrior and archer combo is a perfect match for a party. She lays out the 2 available quests, confirming that their party composition is ideal for the jobs. Maron is still hesitant about the whole thing, when Daria points out they haven't even introduced themselves yet. The pretty boy elf holds out his hand, formally introducing himself as Daria. Our boy Maron is clearly not thrilled about this whole teamwork thing. But then he remembers his massive debt and Daisy's threatening smile, realizing he needs cash fast. Maron shakes the elf's hand and introduces himself as Maron Grass. Daria is all smiles, getting hyped for their first quest together like they're best buds now. Maron tells himself it's fine. The elf seems capable and they can just tackle their separate quests together. Daisy finalizes their two-man party registration, officially teaming up elf archer Daria and human warrior Maron Grass. As they're shaking on it, Daria suddenly yanks his hand back like he just got electrocuted. Maron is left standing there confused as Daria calls out to him with a serious look on his face. Daria the elf looks completely freaked out, asking Maron if he's even human after that handshake. Later, our boy Maron checks his map in the woods, confirming he's arrived at the quest location. The destination is a spooky-ass cave labeled Dungeon Gargoyle Mansion. Classic. Daria, the pretty boy elf, stands over Maron, impatiently telling him to get a move on and enter the cave. The elf immediately starts whining about having to party up with a lowly human. The racism is strong with this one. Maron just tunes him out, thinking about what he knows about the elf race in general. He recalls that elves are long-lived and beautiful, which often got them enslaved by humans in the past. But then he remembers Daisy the guild receptionist, realizing she was super friendly and didn't fit that mold at all. Our boy Maron just ignores the elf's bitching and walks deeper into the dungeon, ready for business. They arrive at a massive gothic mansion inside the cave, looking like something out of Castlevania. Maron looks up at the creepy architecture, impressed by the scale of the place. He spots a swarm of flying monsters and uses his appraise skill to check their stats. The scan reveals a bunch of level 18 gremlins, which are basically just baby gargoyles. Daria scoffs at the swarm, telling Maron to stay back so he can handle the quest himself. Maron completely ignores the elf's grandstanding and just walks right past him. The pretty boy elf loses his mind, yelling at Maron for having the audacity to ignore him. Maron finally claps back, telling the elf he started it and casually dropping that he's over 100 years old. Daria is left speechless by the age reveal, while Maron agrees they should just stay out of each other's way. As Maron prepares to charge in solo, Daria panics and tells him to at least make some preparations first. Maron hits him with a cold reality check, stating that level 18 mobs don't require a plan for guys on their level. Daria the elf has a crisis, realizing Maron saw his stats and might actually be stronger. The pretty boy elf's eyes widen as he connects the dots back to their handshake at the guild. Daria immediately starts screaming at Maron, accusing him of peeking at his info and calling him a filthy human. The elf continues his racist tirade, lecturing Maron about the common courtesy of not appraising people. Daria is absolutely fuming, calling our boy shameless for using his skills. A gremlin takes advantage of the elf's tantrum and dives in for a surprise attack. Maron's sword flashes past Daria's face as he tells him to shut his damn mouth in a dungeon. The gremlin gets splattered into green goo, with Maron having just saved the elf's whiny ass. Daria gets a face full of monster guts and is completely disgusted by it. Maron calmly confirms he saw the elf's stats when they shook hands back at the guild. Daria freaks out that he was right, and Maron suggests that if he hates him that much, they should just get their own quest done quickly instead of holding each other back. The pretty boy elf is left completely speechless by Maron's cold, logical shutdown. Daria gets defensive, yelling that Maron is the one who needs to pull his own weight. The elf declares he'll handle the main boss while Maron can go play with the gremlins. Our boy Maron just casually snatches a gremlin mid-flight, counting how many he needs for his quest. He then proceeds to slam the monster into the ground, one-shotting it without breaking a sweat. Maron dusts off his hands over a pile of dead gremlins, figuring he's gathered enough for his quest. My man looks over to see how the pretty boy elf is handling the main boss he was so confident about. The appraisal shows a level 21 gargoyle with an arrow already sticking out of its head. Daria the elf is panting heavily, clearly struggling against the gargoyle he was so confident about fighting. The gargoyle lunges at the pretty boy elf, who screams as he tries to fend off the attack with his bow. Maron watches the struggle from afar, coldly calculating that the elf probably won't die even if he bails. Our boy decides to leave the elf to his fight and go find himself a snack. His priorities are always in order. Maron inspects a dead gremlin, trying to figure out which parts of the little monster are even edible. He compares the creature to a frog and decides he'll just try butchering it the same way. Resourceful king. My man successfully carves up the gremlin, but is disappointed by how little edible meat he got from it. Since there isn't much meat, Maron decides to cut it into small pieces and skewer them for roasting. He decides to grill the organs too, hoping they'll taste as good as regular animal offal. A true culinary pioneer. The gremlin meat and organ skewers are now roasting over a campfire, looking surprisingly appetizing. The finished product is presented like a gourmet dish, officially titled Gremlin Skewers. Maron holds up his creation, thinking it looks pretty damn good for his first attempt at cooking. He lifts his helmet just enough to take a massive bite of his forbidden dungeon snack. Our boy is immediately blown away, declaring that the gremlin skewer is absolutely delicious. He happily chews away, confirming his long-held belief that monster meat is the best food around. Maron breaks down the flavor profile, comparing it to gamey duck with a pungent aftertaste. He finishes the skewer, already thinking that a little bit of sauce would have made it perfect. A system window pops up announcing he's been hit with minor poison as he collapses to the ground. Another notification confirms he's poisoned, and our boy realizes he can't move his body at all. Maron connects the dots, realizing the pungent taste was actually the poison kicking in. Rookie mistake. My man Maron is on the ground, panicking that he doesn't have an antidote for the poison he just ingested. He has a light bulb moment while drooling on the floor, suddenly keying in on the word antidote. Our boy deduces that since the gremlin's body is poisonous, it must also contain its own natural antidote. He pulls out the gremlin's liver, correctly identifying it as the organ that neutralizes poison. With no other options, my man shoves the raw, slimy gremlin liver straight into his mouth. A system window confirms the poison is neutralized, and our boy collapses in relief, having saved himself. Maron sits up, wiping his brow and thinking about how he almost died from a dungeon snack. He realizes he needs to start researching monster antidotes if he's going to continue his gourmet journey. Dahria, the pretty boy elf, finally shows up, looking absolutely horrified by the scene he's walked into. The elf starts freaking out, demanding to know what the hell Maron is doing now. We see Maron sitting in the middle of his makeshift butcher shop, surrounded by gremlin corpses and cooking gear. Dahria facepalms, muttering that he knew humans were savage, but this is a whole new level of insane. The elf continues his rant about how disgusting it is, but Maron just holds up a hand to stop him. Maron lectures the elf on being respectful to meat-eaters, completely missing the point that he's eating a monster. Dahria has a complete meltdown, calling the whole thing a nightmare and wishing he could go home. The elf snaps out of it, asking why Maron is still here since his part of the quest is over. Maron explains that since they're an official party, they're responsible for each other until both quests are done. Dahria tries to act tough, telling Maron that's his own problem to deal with. Our boy offers to help the elf finish his gargoyle quest so they can wrap things up quickly. Dahria's pride gets in the way, and he tells Maron he doesn't need help from a human. The pretty boy elf is completely baffled by Maron's actions, asking what the hell he's doing. Maron pulls out a sword and a frying pan, casually mentioning there's something he forgot to tell him. My man starts banging them together, activating a provocation skill and claiming he used to be a shield soldier. A gargoyle perched high above gets seriously pissed off by the racket Maron is making. Dahria loses his mind, questioning what banging a damn pot has to do with being a shield soldier. The elf looks up in absolute terror as he starts to connect the dots. Oh, he's about to find out. A system window explains provocation is a skill to draw aggro and protect the party. A whole damn army of monsters descends on them, and Dahria screams that Maron is an insane human. Maron calmly explains the skill is also great for luring every flying monster in a 5-mile radius. My man questions if the skill was always this effective as the entire dungeon's population comes for his head. He just shrugs it off and activates his swordsmanship and martial arts skills ready to throw down. A massive swarm of gremlins and gargoyles dives straight for our boy, looking to turn him into paste. Dahria complains about the mess, but reluctantly agrees to provide support from the back. Maron turns into a literal blender, slicing and dicing his way through the entire monster horde. The pretty boy elf just watches in total shock, unable to believe what he's seeing. Dahria is still processing the one-man army display, muttering that this can't be real. The elf admits he struggled with just 5 gargoyles, realizing Maron is on a completely different level. Maron starts walking off, and Dahria has to run to catch up, asking him to wait. Dahria asks if it's fair that Maron did everything, but our boy says party quests don't split achievements. Maron reminds the elf that he wanted to finish quickly, but trails off like he's about to drop a condition. Dahria tells Maron to move the monster corpses he just slaughtered, calling them useless things. The pretty boy elf suddenly stops Maron, his ears perked up after hearing something in the distance. Dahria tells Maron to shut up while he listens, and our boy is just fascinated by his twitching ears. The elf jumps down from a ledge to investigate, leaving Maron wondering what the hell is going on now. Dahria peeks over a cliff and spots a merchant wagon below, seemingly stuck because of a dead deer. The two merchants are arguing about being late for the black market after their driver hit the animal. One of the scumbags starts beating on a young, shackled elf, screaming at the damn slave to hurry up. The terrified elf slave begs for them to stop hitting him, cowering on the ground in his chains. Daria turns to Maron, absolutely seething, and says this is exactly why he despises humans. The elf goes on a righteous tirade about how humans are hypocrites who still secretly traffic other races. Daria tells Maron to grab his weapon for a fight, but our boy just asks why he should get involved. The pretty boy elf is completely floored by Maron's ice-cold refusal to play the hero. Maron plays devil's advocate, pointing out the slave could be a criminal or in debt, so it might be legal. Daria argues they're heading to the black market, but Maron tells him to just report it to the guards. The elf looks absolutely crushed, calling Maron just another selfish human after thinking he was different. Daria decides to go full vigilante, knocking an arrow and declaring he'll handle the slavers himself. While the elf is having his hero moment, our boy Maron just starts sniffing the air again. Priorities. Inside the wagon, a red-haired elf woman comforts a terrified little elf girl, both of them in chains. Daria hesitates on the cliff, suddenly questioning if he can actually take on two slavers by himself. He shakes off his doubt, telling himself this is exactly what he trained for and that he has to do it. Daria, the pretty boy elf, powers up his bow, ready to unleash some righteous kin punishment on the slavers. The elf goes full Legolas, leaping off the cliff and firing his shot mid-air like a damn action hero. His arrow explodes right next to the wagon, sending the two scumbag slavers flying through the air. The slavers are left coughing in the dust, completely clueless about what just hit them. A glowing sword suddenly appears embedded in the ground, leaving the slavers even more confused. Daria turns to Maron completely baffled, asking why he's helping after his whole "not my problem" speech. Our boy Maron drops a truth bomb, stating that kids are innocent regardless of what adults are fighting about. The head slaver spots them on the cliff, pointing up and calling his buddy a fool for not noticing. Maron and Daria stand on the ledge, looking down on the slavers like they're about to drop an album cover. One of the slavers gets a boot to the face before he can even finish asking who they are. The head slaver starts posturing, yelling at them about whether they think they can get away with this. Daria loses his shit, going on a racist rant about ugly humans and claiming he knew his comrades were inside. The head slaver just laughs, flexing that they're legal traders backed by a marquis, confirming Maron's earlier suspicion. The pretty boy elf is completely stunned by the mention of nobility, realizing this just got complicated. The slaver points to the crest on his wagon, demanding they apologize and pay for the damages. He then starts lecturing Daria, calling forest elves ignorant troublemakers who don't know how the world works. Daria's eyes go white with rage, clearly about to snap from the insult. Maron calmly cuts in, pointing out that the crest on the wagon isn't actually the Bechtal crest. Everyone, including Daria, is shocked as our boy calls out the slaver's bluff. The head slaver panics, yelling that the wolf symbol is right there, trying to double down on his lie. Our boy Maron drops some serious heraldry knowledge, explaining the real crest has a one-eyed wolf, outing these clowns as fakes. Maron then casually asks if the punishment for falsely claiming to be nobility is still death. My man is cold. The head slaver panics and orders his goon to attack, screaming that there are only two of them. As the goon attacks, Maron thinks about how mercenaries used to avoid fighting each other. He finishes his thought, noting that times have clearly changed as he effortlessly blocks the punch. Maron counters with a single devastating punch right to the slaver's face. The slaver's eyes roll back as he screams, blood flying everywhere from the impact. The head slaver watches in pure shock as his buddy gets launched into the air like a rag doll. The goon crashes into the ground with a massive thud, creating a small crater. He's done. The remaining slaver can't believe his huge partner got one-shotted, his face a mask of pure terror. The head scumbag is now on the ground, holding his jaw and trying to act tough while clearly defeated. Daria and Maron loom over him, and the slaver immediately folds, screaming that they surrender. The scene shifts to a cozy-looking building at night, where they've taken the rescued elves. One of the rescued elves thanks Maron for saving them and asks how they can ever repay him. Daria takes all the credit, telling the elf family he was just doing his duty for his enslaved kin. The pretty boy elf walks over to Maron, who asks if everything is taken care of now. Daria confirms he turned the slavers over to the guards and that relatives are coming to pick up the family. Maron turns his head as someone calls out to him from behind. The rescued elf mother and her little girl approach, asking if he's the uncle who saved them. The little elf girl looks up at Maron with stars in her eyes, telling him he was cool and thanking him. The rescued elf family says their goodbyes, with the little girl waving to Maron, calling him Mr. Uncle. Daria turns to Maron, looking like it's physically painful for him to admit he's about to thank a human. The pretty boy elf finally chokes out a thank you, clarifying it's for saving his kin, not for saving him. Maron immediately shatters the moment by deadpanning. Then give me money, leaving Daria completely speechless. Our boy doubles down, telling the elf that if he's grateful, he can pay him in cash instead of feelings. Daria asks if helping him in the dungeon was also for money, and Maron says cash is more reliable than gratitude. The elf has a meltdown, realizing the guy he was starting to respect is just a money-hungry mercenary. Daria completely loses it, shoving a bag of money at Maron and telling him to take it and get lost. The elf goes on a racist rant, vowing to never trust a human again, while Maron just thinks about the cash. The next day, we're back at the Hexalim Guild, where it's business as usual for the adventurers. Daisy, the receptionist, confirms the gremlin eyeballs are all there and congratulates Maron on his first completed quest. She compliments him on finishing a tough first quest so quickly, while our boy just stands there at the counter. Daisy hands over the quest reward, which is a measly 2 silver coins. Maron looks at the tiny payment, asking if the reward was always this small. My man forgot about the fine print. Daisy's smile gets demonic as she reminds him his massive debt is automatically deducted from all his earnings. Our boy is crushed by the reality of his debt, promising to pay it back as fast as he can. Maron decides he needs to get right back on the grind and heads for the quest board to find another job. He stands in front of the quest board, looking for his next meal ticket and his next actual meal. Maron thinks that besides the money, he wants to find a monster that's a little different to eat this time. He spots a quest for a dungeon with only stone monsters and immediately passes. Can't eat rocks, after all. Maron spots a quest for a level 26 orc's hut, noting it's a new potential dining location. My man is already drooling, wondering if orc meat tastes like pork, when someone calls out to him. It's the orange-haired girl from the carriage, Mickey, who's surprised to see him at the Adventurers Guild. She roasts him for not eating on their trip, saying she thought he might have died somewhere. Mickey gets called by her party member and decides to introduce Maron to her crew. She introduces her party leader, a blonde guy named Orga, and a small rabbit person mage. Mickey introduces Maron as the picky but strong mercenary, and our boy is sweating about his reputation. She introduces the mage as Hecate and explains the 3 of them have been a party for a while. Maron immediately clocks their terrible party composition of 2 archers and a mage, wondering who their tank is. Mickey admits they need a vanguard and spontaneously offers Maron the job for the Orc's Hut dungeon. Our boy is completely caught off guard by the sudden party invitation and job offer.